Hey Farm Fam, it's Todd from Headwaters Homestead. It's a beautiful 75-degree day here in Northeast Ohio. Today is Sunday, July the 30th, so we are over the halfway point of summer. And I'm just knocking out some chores around the house here before me and the kids go out on a canoe trip today. But I wanted to show you how we contend with some of the weeds that we encounter here on the homestead. Not necessarily out in the pasture. We let the animals kind of manage our pasture lands, but something that you're probably all familiar with, at least somewhere around your house, whether it's your flower beds or in your driveways, is weed management. Of course, there are a lot of commercial products you can go out and buy to control weeds. Roundup comes to mind, Ortho. There are a lot of different products out there, but I want to show you a simple product you can make at home with some stuff you probably have around the house, and it's stuff that you can use to control your weeds and feel a lot more comfortable having your kids and animals around. So let me show you the basics on how we whip that up, and I'll show you where we're going to use it in the driveway and hopefully get some before and after pics for you. All right, so you can definitely see here that the driveway and weed management in the driveway has been kind of let go a little bit this year. So this is what I'm going to get out and tackle today. This stretch of gravel here with all this weed growth. See that all coming up. A lot of it is underneath where we usually park our cars, but some of it is just in the general path as well. And then for those of you who have an asphalt or concrete drive and don't necessarily have to worry about that, there are always going to be those weeds that grow up in your sidewalks and along your flower beds. So we're going to treat this section here along the walkway, down along both sides, get all these weeds out of here. And this is what I use at home for our weed control. Now this is a little bit stronger than probably what you're going to have in the household cupboards. Most vinegar is going to be somewhere around 4 and 5%. The cleaning vinegars might be as much as 5 to 6%. But you can see that here that this is a product we have through Harris that is a 30% vinegar. That's a really strong concentrate. We're talking 6 to 7 times stronger than what you usually will find in your kitchen cabinets. So this is one thing you may not have. You can use that 4 and 5% vinegar. I like to use this 30% though, because a little bit goes a real long way. And even if you use it in a stronger, higher concentration, there's not a risk of harsh toxic chemicals, nothing associated with causing cancer that I'm familiar with from the use of vinegar. So using it at an even stronger, more heavier use than intended, you're not going to put yourself at risk. So we'll usually mix 1 quart of that with a gallon of water. Then we'll usually add a cup of Epsom salt to that mix, and then just about a tablespoon of Dawn. The Dawn acts as a surfactant. It actually breaks down the surface tension in the water. So instead of having the water bead up on the leaves of the plants, it actually spreads out smooth. It gets a better coverage of the entire leaf. It also makes it more likely that the plant will then absorb the vinegar and salt, which ultimately will kill it. And we'll just mix that all up in our pump sprayer here, get it pumped up nice and high pressure, and then we're going to go through and just apply a good solid coating to all the undesirable plants, all the weeds that we want to get rid of. You can see here I've already started along the steps. I've given these just a nice gentle coat, trying to get both sides of the leaves wherever possible, but giving these a good thorough spray. And then I'm going to come back in about 6 hours and you'll see that the wilting process will have already begun. Ultimately, this will completely kill these plants. This does not have anything in it that persists in the soil, so this isn't going to keep new weeds from coming up, 2 to 3 weeks down the road. But again, there are no harmful synthetic chemicals that are left over by this process at all. So you can feel a lot more comfortable using this around your friends and family. I will say that when you're applying this, there are a couple things you want to take into consideration, and we'll go over those real quick. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're going to kill your weeds. I know a lot of people are tempted to go out in the heat of summer after a long hot and dry spell and think that that's a good time to hit the weeds because your grass is under stress in those conditions, so you think the weeds are under stress. And you're right, the weeds are under stress in those conditions. But the one thing that you have to factor into that is when weeds are stressed, just like your grass, it tries to go dormant. When it goes dormant, that means that it's not actively taking in the chemical that you're trying to treat it with. How this works is, you have to have some moisture in the soil so that plant is actively uptaking moisture to get nutrients into it. And you want to hit it with the strong vinegar then, so it's absorbing that vinegar and salt. If you do that when the soil is dry and hard, you might see a little wilting effect, but you're not going to see a true kill of that weed. The secret is to make sure that there's moisture in the soil. So it's a nice warm day today. It's not quite 80 degrees. It's cooler weather, which is better time to treat your weeds. But we just had 1.5 inches of rain over the last 2 days. So I know there's plenty of moisture in the soil. I know the plants that are out there now are going to be actively trying to uptake nutrients. And that's where we're going to slip this vinegar and salt in to help kill off those weeds. Another thing to keep in mind when you're treating for weeds is be very careful with this spray. It is non-selective. That means that it doesn't discern between the plants you want to keep and the weed you want to get rid of. It doesn't discern between whether it's a grass or a broadleaf weed. This is a weed killer that will kill everything that you spray it on. Well, just about everything. Some of the tougher weeds like poison ivy, you're probably not going to get a kill with using a vinegar and salt solution, at least not at this time of year. The very end of September, first 2 weeks of October are really the best time to kill the tougher weeds like poison ivy, clover, ground ivy, things like that. That's when those plants are taking up nutrients and trying to actively grow their root structure. So you might weaken one of those plants now with a vinegar solution, but if you truly want to kill those plants, you need to go back in later in the fall than what we're treating right now. And for the really hard ones like poison ivy or wild blackberry canes, stuff like that, the harder stuff to kill, a vinegar and salt solution probably isn't going to do it for you. You might need to use a synthetic like triclopyr or something similar to that. But I'm not looking for a soil sterilizer. I'm not looking for a synthetic weed killer here. I'm just looking to kill the weeds that are in my driveway and feel comfortable letting my dogs, chickens, and kids run across it. So that's why we're doing this more natural solution. Now, when you mix your product, put your vinegar in first and add about half of your water. Then mix in your Epsom salt and your little bit of Dawn and slowly add the rest of the water in. That'll kind of mix it all together thoroughly. You can always give your pump sprayer a good shake to further mix that up. And then the process of actually pumping up and pressurizing your pump sprayer will mix that around as well. Be very careful with your drift when you're spraying. Don't do this on a windy day, because if this solution does blow onto the more desirable plants in your flower bed, you're going to see them wilt and die back from using this on them as well. One tip that I like to use when you're spraying anything, whether it's something as simple as this vinegar and salt solution, or if you're using a harsher, stronger synthetic chemical, always walk backwards when you're spraying. That way you are not walking through what you just sprayed. That keeps that product off of you. It also keeps you from wiping water off the leaves and breaking down the contact you just made with your chemical. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this walk. I've got my pump sprayer all good and pumped up, and I'm just going to start applying this to all the weeds that I don't want. Watching to make sure that there isn't overspray and drift going on into the areas where I have plants that I don't want to kill. And like I say, you're just going to go through and thoroughly coat all of the weeds that you see. Try to get it from a couple of different sides and angles. That way you know you're getting the tops of the leaves and underneath. And just work down along anywhere where you might have an issue with weeds coming up. So up through the cracks. I've got some moss growing here that this will kill it back a little bit. That moss will probably return to those areas. I don't mind it as much. I'm trying to get the broadleaf weeds here like the crabgrass and the dandelions and everything else that's growing up through. Broadleaf plantain, we get a lot of those. crabgrass itself is not a broadleaf weed, it's actually a grass. But this will work on killing it back too. And just like that, our whole walk is done, and we're going to move on to the rest of the driveway. One of the areas that gets neglected quite a bit is just below this edge of the herb garden that we have. You can see we have the hose bib connection here, so there's always water that's leaking down in. And what that results in is a virtual forest growing along the bottom of the wall. A lot of time this is in relative shade, which is also beneficial to help these different weeds that try to grow here. And we've got quite the variety. Everything from, here's some fireweed growing here, some random grasses growing up. I believe that's probably some type of an orchard grass. Got some common copperleaf growing in here. Back here, there's a little bit of clover just starting to come up. Good old dandelions. A lot of the purslane grows in this area, and you can see that actually. Now that's actually edible, but as it grows right here on the driveway, I'm not looking to harvest any of this, but you can actually use that one in salads. This I always thought as a kid was clover, but this is actually a yellow wood sorrel that's growing out of the cracks here between the blocks. We've got some members of the plantain family. I believe that's actually a greater plantain there. You'll see a lot of those in lawns as well, both the greater plantain and the narrow leaf. There's some more wood sorrel, more purslane. There's some lamb's ear growing up back there, and then quite a bit of just regular grasses coming in. But this area we're going to go through and give a nice spray of our homemade weed killer here, just to get this back under control. The shade is actually beneficial to helping the weed killer that we're applying work. If you have too much direct sun, if you do this in the hot part of the day, a lot of that liquid weed killer that you're applying is going to evaporate off. So if you can do it early morning, late in the afternoon, or concentrate on shady spots, again, you'll see much more effect from the weed killer that you use. As you go along, you just want to get a nice liberal coating over everything that you want to treat with your weed killer. You don't need to absolutely drown the plants in it, but you can see that if you take just time to make sure that you get a good mist over all of it, contact on the leaves, try to get both sides of the leaves as much as possible. That's all you need. So a little bit of this is going to go a long way. So here's a nice healthy stand of plantains before they have been sprayed. And I'm going to come back to this spot after a while and show you the difference that this simple homemade weed killer can have on these plants, the impact that it has. Alright, So it's the end of the day, we are back, and I just want to show you what the driveway looks like after spraying it down with our solution of vinegar, Epsom salt, and a little bit of Dawn soap as a surfactant. Before this was all lush and green, you can see that just in a matter of a couple of hours, everything has started to lose its color and wilt back. This will eventually die completely off. Might have to go through and hand pick some of these weeds out, but I don't have any issue with doing those cultural controls because there's not any hazard associated with handling the vinegar or salts that were used in this. But you can see just how quickly everything that was lush and green before has been bleached out and wilted back. A lot of people will argue that organics and home remedies don't work, but you can see here that just in a matter of hours, a lot of the weeds that we had along here have started to wilt back, and this will continue on. It's not that organics don't work, it's that you've got to use the right product at the right time. And that's true with synthetics as well. I see a lot of people who talk about vinegar and salt won't kill it to the root, won't completely kill the root. Well, yeah, that's partially true because this time of year plants are not developing their root systems. They're putting all of their energy into upward growth. And you can see that we've effectively stopped and killed off that upward growth here. If you want to treat something and kill it to the roots, you need to hit it in the fall when it's working on root development. And for some of the more persistent weeds, you might need to use something stronger than just simple vinegar and Epsom salts. However, when you're spraying those products, I wouldn't recommend walking around wearing open-toed flip-flops because the chemicals that you use from the synthetics, things like dicot, triclopyr, glyphosate, glufosinate, 2,4-D, those are all synthetic chemicals that you really don't want to get on your skin. Whereas here today, if I did have any overspray that happened to get on my feet using these products, well, I guess at most I'm at risk at having pickly toes. But you can see what we did spray worked really well. I'm happy to see how much this is dying back just in a matter of hours. And yeah, I might have to reapply periodically throughout the season. In fact, I know I will. But I'm a lot more comfortable knowing what's in the soil here as opposed to using some of those synthetic chemicals. All we want, oh, there comes Ellie. All we want is the chance to do things a natural way and to have that option. You can see here the fireweed really did not handle that well. It's wilted quite a bit back. Same with the copperleaf. It's all wilted back and browned. The dandelions. I did notice on the common purslane that the leaves are wilted, but the stems and stalks still look fairly healthy. They are a little bit more robust, so this might be one that needs a little bit more than just a simple vinegar and salt concoction to kill. Of course, there's always cultural controls too. You can simply hand pull a lot of weeds. Look what it did to these greater plantains though. You can see there that those are all wilted back. Even the seed casings and the seed heads that are standing up there have turned a much darker brown. So hopefully that's not going to reseed. Mixed results here on the couple of the grasses that we see. Again, most of those have been browned out. There's some more purslane down below. And again, the thicker vining root-like structure that they grow on seems to handle the vinegar solution pretty well. There's some more greater plantain. Even the little bit of lamb's ear that has escaped and started to spread, it's wilted back And a lot of this grass is gone a light strawy brown. I don't think that's dormancy. I think that's actually, it's been killed off by the vinegar and Epsom salt. Definitely has an impact though. All right, that's all from us today. I hope you enjoyed our simple little 4-ingredient home weed killer. You know, feel free to give it a try around your place, see how it works. Let us know what results you have. Hopefully we'll find that it works just as well for you as it does for us here on the homestead. Remember, when you're using any of these products, to, you know, do it safely. As I said, with the vinegar that we use, the Epsom salt, the water, and the little bit of soap, there's no real hazards there. I guess there's a splash hazard from the vinegar. You definitely don't want to get that in your eyes. It is a little bit caustic, but other than that, it's pretty harmless. A lot less harmful than some of the synthetic chemicals that can be used and some of the other ways that people treat their weeds with. But yeah, definitely give it a try. Let us know how it goes for you. And we'll see you next time. Take care, Farm Fam. Bye now.